welcome to day 2 of our volunteer festival. We're kicking off this morning with a session from Laura and Stina, who are going to be talking about life through a lens. So they're going to be sharing with us some updates from their part of working at Shared Interest. So I'm going to pass straight over to Laura and Stina now. I'm going to do that now. So I'm just going to disappear and over to you, Laura and Stina. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Hello and welcome to our Life Through a Lens session. Today, we would like to bring you on board our storytelling journey. Laura and I are both part of the Shared Interest member engagement team, focusing particularly on marketing and communications. As all of us here already know, Shared Interest provides finance to organisations that follow fair trade principles. Our supporters enable us to do that, and of course, many of them want to know about the impact of that support, not only on the businesses themselves, but the people involved and their wider community. People are therefore at the centre of our communications. These contributors generously share their time as well as their images, experiences and perspectives with us, and make our communications powerful and effective by showing the impact and importance of our work. We therefore have a responsibility to tell their stories accurately and ethically. Within Shared Interest, we live by a set of positive statements. One of these says, "We invest in a fairer world. We believe in treating people consistently and making measured judgments." This statement can be directly applied to our approach to storytelling. We tell stories in many different ways, in words, photography, and film. We also publish them across a range of platforms, printed publications, websites, and social media. Today, we'll tell you a little more about this process and how we aim to maintain an authentic narrative, not only through words, but visually too. We will also talk a bit about how our communications respond to global issues, consumer concerns, and the interests of our members, which are all also crucial aspects of our storytelling. We thought the most effective way to do this would be to show you some real-life examples of our materials and talk through why images and language have been used and combined in a certain way. We will begin by showing you a set of front covers from QR. These covers appeared between spring 2021 and present day. Hopefully, you will see a recurring theme within the language of the headers in particular. From recent consumer research, we know that many people in the UK have a desire to be united through a need to make positive change. A report on global consumer trends by Mintel in 2021 states, "The COVID-19 pandemic has had an impact on feelings of belonging and togetherness, as well as isolation and loneliness, pushing consumers to unite in order to lend a helping hand and support each other during such unconventional times. These communities are overcoming any social differences with connection as a common purpose, looking to have a positive impact and consequently evoke feelings of solidarity and unity." As a membership organisation, the value of community has always been at Shared Interest's heart. However, we have built on this messaging throughout the pandemic and beyond, and hopefully you can see how, with these front page headlines, we are emphasising to members how we stand together to achieve a shared goal. How do we align our work with things like the impact of climate change? We know that climate change is also a subject that interests many of our members. Our biannual member survey reports an increasing interest in environmental issues year on year, with 98% of respondents deducing that this is an area of importance to them. With a 23% response rate to our member survey in 2021, we can assume that this is representative of our membership as a whole. Our mission may not be directly connected to the issue of climate change. However, the products, people, and communities we support are affected by its impact. By reporting on the challenges faced and the mitigation measures implemented by farmers, we can amplify the message of increasing climate resilience. We have already begun this work with Spring QR, the latest one shown on screen, carrying a climate change focus, and our associated online supporter events brought stories of resilience from our regions. We will continue this thread in future editions of QR by sharing experiences from farmers and artisans on how fluctuating weather conditions are affecting them. You may not immediately think that changes in temperature directly affect handcraft producers, but one example is a group of basket weavers in Ghana, where the impact of climate change has caused straw to be low quality and at times difficult to source. As this is the predominant raw material of the basket industry, it can cause major problems. Our aim overall is to illustrate how cooperatives and their members are in fact leading the way, often with innovative responses to climate-based issues. We want to highlight the unfair imbalance between the responsibility for the issues caused and the necessary action required. There is an increasing awareness that those who have contributed the least to the crisis continue to suffer the most. Following the United Nations Climate Change Conference, otherwise known as COP26, we have seen a growing emphasis on what is now known as climate justice. Fairtrade Fortnight 2021 and 2022 shone a spotlight on the critical role fair trade plays in achieving this. World Fair Trade Day this year also focused on the same theme. Our media coverage with the Big Issue magazine across both campaign events has relayed the story of Peruvian cooperative Secafe and their pledge to safeguard coffee as a symbol of well-being for future generations. Shared Interest has provided finance to Secafe for almost a decade, and thanks to our supporters, the cooperative is able to pay farmers on time whilst also increasing production. However, the impact goes far beyond this. As production increases, so does the amount of fair trade premium paid to the cooperative. Secafe has dedicated this additional sum of money to community projects promoting health and well-being for farmers and their families. Through our Big Issue coverage, we wanted to relay how this sense of community is something we share with Secafe and with our supporters here in the UK. Together, we work towards a better quality of life for people living and working in remote regions. We also wanted to relay how access to finance is possibly one of the most powerful ways to help businesses support their own communities in facing the issues of today. Secafe founder and general manager Elma Sanchez said, "The financial support provided by Shared Interest has allowed our cooperative to pay farmers on delivery of their coffee. This means that farmers like Segundo and Belva Garcia, pictured here on the front covers, can increase production and have the income needed to manage their land effectively, working in harmony with their surroundings." But what about these front cover images? I will pass over to Laura now to talk about what goes on behind the scenes to gather photography of contributors.
Thanks, Stina, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'll begin by sharing some examples of our work and explaining how we work with contributors to support us in telling these authentic and compelling stories. So the two examples you can see on screen now are the two cover ups Stina has just mentioned, which we ran with the Big Issue magazine earlier this year. The one on the left was featured for Fairtrade Fortnight and the one on the right ahead of World Fair Trade Day. And both cover-ups featured Secafe Cooperative, who are based in Peru. The photography featured in this campaign was gathered as part of our content gathering process during 2021. Commissioning photography and film is a major focus of our work and supports our storytelling, helping us convey the human impact our finance has on communities. As part of this storytelling, we provide contributors with the finished result so they can see the outcome. In this case, we emailed a copy of the magazine to Set Cafe General Manager, and we do the same with other methods of our marketing. Our content gathering process is a multi-layered approach, which allows us to work with contributors to share their story in a way they feel assured with. At Shared Interest, we regularly commission photography and film shoots. We aim to achieve 3 to 4 shoots per year, working with producers across our portfolio. We work with in-country photographers and filmmakers, carrying out extensive research to ensure the content gatherer follows the ethical principles we at Shared Interest aim to work by. We ensure the content gatherer speaks the language spoken by the contributors and also has an understanding of the culture and the communities they will be working with. We introduce the content gatherer to the producer group ahead of the shoot, and we work with the producer group to identify a small number of individuals who are happy to be featured in the content gathering process. We do so via an informed consent process, which Stina will talk to you later about in our presentation today. For each shoot we commission, we follow this approach, which enables us to tell the stories of the people we are working with in the most honest and authentic way. We provide a detailed brief to photographers, focusing on the types of image we would aim to capture during the shoot. We aim to guide photographers in style, for example, asking them to capture producers in their daily work. However, to ensure authenticity, we would not ask photographers to guide contributors to appear in any certain way in the photograph, and photographs are not adapted in any way which could alter the messaging behind an image. Generally, we ask contributors to go about their usual day for a more natural, authentic outcome to the images. As a standard procedure, we ask photographers not to capture any images of children, and due to our tight guidelines on informed consent, we no longer feature images of children in any of our market materials. All of our shoots focus on a small number of contributors, and the photographer will caption each image accordingly, including the name of the individual and what they are doing in the photograph. The image you see here on this slide is of a basket weaver from Trade Aid called Akolombia. Trade Aid are based in Ghana, and we recently worked with an in-country photographer in the region who helped us to gather a suite of images and film with this producer group. Similarly here, we've already mentioned Set Cafe, but this is a couple of images from the selection and the assignment that we ran with them earlier this year. And this shoot was part of our content gathering for Shared Interest Foundation, for whom we follow the same procedure. And these ladies are part of the Bees for Business project in Burkina Faso. And this all comes under part of our informed consent process, which Stina will tell you a little bit more about now.
Thanks, Laura. As Laura just explained, giving a clear explanation to contributors about the purpose behind our storytelling and providing examples of outcomes is an important part of informed consent. This is a two-way process with plenty of opportunity for people to ask questions and express preferences and any concerns about being involved. Perhaps most importantly, we consistently reassure contributors that they can change their mind at any point in the process. Throughout all of this, we want people to have in mind my story, my consent, and the permission to publicise their story lies solely with them. With a wide range of different languages involved and varying levels of accessibility, we work closely with organisations to understand how best to approach the different stages of informed consent. There are many different ways to do this, and it is by no means a one-size-fits-all approach. Examples include using a combination of pictorial representations and visual examples of communications materials. People can sign a form by using a thumbprint where a signature is not possible, or we can film contributors giving consent verbally after someone reads out the consent form to them on camera in their own language. This is where we have really appreciated the invaluable assistance of our translator volunteers, who have interpreted forms in a variety of languages, recently including Kinyarwanda, one of the official languages of Rwanda. As we contact contributors via their organisations rather than as individuals, we also follow good practice guidelines in acquiring group consent, which must be given by someone recognised as the group leader or representative, such as the general manager of the cooperative. This person will often become the conduit for relaying the results of our campaigns. For example, as Laura mentioned earlier, we were able to share the big issue covers with Secafe Cooperative in Peru, and they also featured in our insert campaigns this year, which Laura will now tell you a little more about.
Thanks, Stina. During the year, we ran a series of insert campaigns featuring Secafe, who we mentioned earlier. These inserts featured in a range of printed publications, including Amnesty International, Earth Matters, New Internationalist, and the Walk magazines. This campaign featured father and son, Belva and Segundo, who work for Secafe Cooperative. Stina will talk to you more about the language used in this campaign, but I will draw your attention to the images used. In our briefing for photo calls, we aim to capture individuals carrying out their daily work. Here, Belva and Segundo are photographed during the coffee berry collection and also holding the finished product. We aim to capture as many parts of the process as possible, from the harvest right through to production. Sometimes this can pose challenges due to logistics, however, we do as much as we can to ensure that we capture as many elements as we can. As mentioned earlier, all images are captioned by the photographer, and we carry these through to our materials, fully capturing all images in QR, inserts, and any other communications materials. We also aim to capture the producers in their natural environment, and in particular in the second insert, you will notice the contributors are not looking directly at the camera. This is an example of capturing the contributors feeling at ease. During the content gathering process, we work closely with the contributors to ensure they are happy with the style of imagery, and in this case it was important to Secafe that finished product was included in the shoot to help them develop their own brand, so we really brought that through in the finished photography. I will now pass on to Stina to talk about the content in this campaign and how we developed the story.
Thank you, Laura. As you can see, these insert campaigns focused again on the theme of climate resilience. By telling the story of father and son farmers Belva and Segundo, we can show how our finance supports the cooperative to provide a stable and reliable income, which in turn helps farmers to plan and prepare their land. Secafe brings together 800 farmers in the Amazonas region of Peru who believe that their coffee is a symbol of well-being. The cooperative produces high-quality, fair trade and organic coffee grown amidst rainforest and mountain ranges. Secafe farmers work in harmony with their surroundings, using soil conservation methods, and apply their coffee pulp as compost. In their dedication to protect and preserve the landscape, they have also launched a 40-year reforestation project. Secafe has used shared interest finance for over 10 years, as mentioned earlier, to support communities in the Peruvian Amazon. This message relates to how we work together hand in hand. We believe that showing how our finance indirectly enables farmers to become more climate resilient shows how supporting farmers creates a better future, which may inspire potential members. Richard Cope, Senior Trends Consultant for Mintel Consulting, said in October 2021, "Our research shows that consumers are happy to play their part for sustainability, but want help. While consumers are looking for companies to shoulder their share of responsibility, it seems they would like to be able to play a more informed role, as well as demand greater transparency. In effect, consumers are looking to brands to help them mitigate their impact on the environment. They may potentially look at organisations like Shared Interest to help them on that journey. By encouraging feedback from potential and current members, we can understand more about people's motivations and how we can help them become more informed about the topics close to their heart. After all, as our head of lending, Paul Sablich, says, Shared interest is a meeting of hearts and minds. And that is why we encourage people to share how they heard about shared interest on the point of application, so we can understand which messages may have inspired them. Although there are usually several points of contact involved in the conversion process, we are particularly interested in what the final motivator was in filling out that form or picking up that phone to become a member. In terms of our current member base, QR forms our main communication with members and has developed in line with our brand over the past 32 years. However, its main objectives remain the same: to inform and engage individuals on the impact of their investment. And in our 2021 member survey, 90.8% of respondents said QR provides them with the best sense of the social impact. And 87% of members said they read every or most issues. This is music to our ears, but there is always room for improvement, and we have the perfect opportunity to hear your views today. We would love to open up the floor now for any feedback or questions you may have about what we have talked about today or our communications in general. And in the meantime, thank you for listening. We hope you have enjoyed the session as much as we have enjoyed sharing our storytelling journey with you. And Sally, do you want to explain how the Q&As are going to work?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Stina and Laura. That was fantastic, and hopefully those joining found that really interesting and a good insight into content gathering at shared interest. So as Stina said, she and Laura are available for any questions that any of you might have, so do feel free to ask those. Just simply unmute your microphone and ask your question away. Thank you.
I was wondering if there were any countries or producers where getting informed consent is difficult, or where taking photographs presents particular challenges.
Shall I start that by talking about the informed consent, Laura, and then pass over to you to talk about how we collate the imagery?
Yeah.
Yes, there are certainly informed consent is a journey, just like storytelling itself. And there are best practice guidelines that we feel are really, really important. Hence why we think that there is no one size fits all approach. We work with each producer group or organisation very closely to figure out the best ways to achieve informed consent. And obviously, as we discussed, language can be a barrier. And that's where, we have a fantastic team of network of volunteers who, have been invaluable in providing that translation support. Obviously, also, that's why we offer not only just informed consent is to have forms in place, but also we want to ensure that people can give that consent on camera as well, with somebody interpreting in their language so that they can then understand. And then we have that on camera to confirm that they feel comfortable in taking part. But it's not just about ticking a box, signing a form. It's about remaining in touch with that cooperative, that business, the people involved, to ensure that they feel comfortable, not only all the way through the process, but in the aftermath too. And that's why we like to share examples of our coverage so that people can really understand and see how that has been used. We also, after 5 years, which Laura explained to you in a minute, but we have our images and our stories on file for 5 years. And then we'll always, after that point, return and say, is this story still accurate? Is it still representing what you do as an organisation or your story as an individual, to ensure that, it does remain an ethical and authentic example of the story involved. I'll let Laura explain now about sometimes the logistics involved in trying to achieve photography in remote regions.
Yeah, thanks, Stina. And thanks for the question. So obviously there's many challenges that we might face when planning these shoots as well. So, and in terms of gathering, working with the right photographer, I'll probably say is one of them. So we speak to partners, like-minded organisations, for recommendations for photographers. We do quite a lot of extensive research. We meet photographers via video call ahead of the shoot and sort of make sure that their personal ethos is sort of matches what ours is at shared interest. Obviously, the producers we work with, a lot of them are very remote in location, which poses challenges in terms of getting to the actual location, but also there can be internet problems, so that I guess sometimes hinders the informed consent process, in that it may take a bit longer to if we are getting feedback via email or messaging, that it might take a bit longer to do that. But yeah, we work closely with the producer group to ensure that we always gather that information and we can overcome those challenges.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivor. Are there any other questions from anyone? Susan, yes, do you want to just unmute yourself, please, Susan? Thank you.
I was just going to say, I think there's, I'm sorry I didn't come in right at the beginning, but I just say that storytelling is a very powerful way of engaging people. And I found that, you know, if I can show pictures or videos of what's happening in particular projects, obviously with the consent, but it's particularly important that it comes from the people. It's not just somebody being a voyeur, if you like, of what's happening, but that really appeals to people and really engages people in the fantastic work that Shared Interest is doing. So I think it's you know, fantastic to carry on doing that, and with all the, you know, safeguards that you have put in place. So you know, I'm really pleased about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? I'm just having a quick look along my screen to see. I don't see any other hands raised or anything. So thank you both very much for that. That was fantastic. If people do have follow-up questions at all, just drop us through an email and we'll pass those on to Laura and Stina and get responses for you. But thank you both very much. That was fantastic. A really excellent insight into content gathering and storytelling at Shared Interest. So thank you for your time sharing and presenting that. We hopefully will see many of you either later on today or perhaps tomorrow at other volunteer festival sessions. But thank you all very much for joining us this morning, and we'll see you again soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.